Damien, thank you for coming into our campsite today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bringing you back on set. I don't know if that's a bad memory or not.
That's right, I'm having flashbacks.
Flashbacks, yeah. Well, anyway, just take care of him in this environment.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't want to be a victim of
Make it out alive.
The killing ground. Hi, everybody. For those that don't know, this is Damien Power, a young Australian director who's made a film called Killing Ground, which has unnerved critics overseas. It released in America not long ago to rave reviews, and I just wanted to, you're probably familiar with these, but I just wanted to read a couple of these to our audience that may not be familiar with this. A naturalistic film that will have you nervous in your seat, confronting to the nth degree. Variety magazine called it a harrowing white knuckle thriller, and critics have said that you'll never go camping again. Now, I'm not a camper, so I'm okay, but I believe it will, and I've seen the film, and it will certainly have an impact on people that do camp. The Hollywood Reporter called it chilling, simmering, and a tension that explodes into full-blown hell, horrifies with raw realism and terror. But the quote that I really wanted to make a note of now is this. A reviewer said, "I can't say I've seen anything this brutal presented so elegantly. An unforgettable, absolutely relentless." For me, if I could just start on that point, I think a lot of filmmakers want to create a story where it could be horrific at one moment, but in a heartbeat be beautiful. How did you achieve that with this film before we get into the context of what it is?
Yeah, well, I think you're really talking about the treatment of the violence, which, you know, in the film it's pretty realistic, and that was one of my goals setting out to make the film was, you know, to tell this genre story, but to tell it in a really realistic way. So that the characters seemed real and plausible, but also, you know, we treated the violence in a realistic way. So immediately that's going to set a certain tone, it's going to have a certain kind of impact. And so then it becomes on me how we're going to show that. And I think, you know, we show it in actually a surprisingly restrained way, which is what they're probably referring to.
Because it doesn't suffer from cliches, it doesn't glorify it. And we were talking just before we started this interview, it's like, you know, psychopaths are people, and we might wake up in the morning and have a cup of tea. A psychopath will just kill somebody as if they're having a cup of tea. And I think, but I think that's where that horror lies, that it is so matter of fact, and you're not ashamed to portray that. Like, it could be the person that I see as I drive into a campsite, which I think is one of the characteristics of the film that makes it so strong, and certainly those reviewers have highlighted that fact. Now, some of the actors, you've got a great young acting cast, Harry Dwyer, Aaron Glenane, and a very experienced actor, Aaron Peterson. I just want to ask about Aaron, because the last several years he's had quite an impact on the film scene here in Australia with Goldstone, Mystery Road. But in those films he played really heroic characters that resonated a sense of calmness. And how did you think about him being a psychopath as he's in this film?
Well, look, I mean, I think Aaron Peterson's a national treasure. You know, he's an amazing actor. And when it came to casting that role, it was really important that I have an actor that have a sense of charisma and strength and power, someone who could mentor a younger guy into murder. And, you know, Aaron Peterson has all those qualities. And at the time, you know, I thought, look, he'll never do it because he always plays cops. And I think that, you know, contributed to him wanting to do it, is that he just doesn't get offered those roles. So we offered it to him and he said yes straight away, which was fantastic.
Fantastic.
I mean, I feel, you know, really blessed with all the cast, actually.
So speaking to the casting for a minute, how did you set up anything particular in the environment on set that allowed those actors to go into those recesses of violence? And like, there's a lot of beautiful things leading up to that, but when they get into that violent world, it's pretty dark and gruesome. And as we were saying before, matter of fact, it's not cliched. They're dark places. How did you create an environment that allowed them to travel to those areas? Yeah,
I mean, I think that you just have to, as a director, you have to kind of create a safe space for the actors to work, to really kind of go into those places. And, you know, it's often hard for reasons that you're not anticipating. So something that you think is actually going to be really emotionally tough and draining is, but then there are also so many technical considerations that kind of get in the way of that. You know, there are stunt elements, there are you know, effects and makeup elements like squibs or blood, or so on some days when I thought we were going to have a tough day because of the content, we had a tough day, but it wasn't because of the content, it was because of the difficulty the physical difficulty of the shoot.
Yeah, almost like working green screen or working with animals.
Yeah,
Those things.
and then there are other days where I thought, well, this is not as strong in terms of the content as some of the other stuff we're shooting, where I was in tears behind the monitor because it was so intense and it felt so personal, and the actors really went there. Yeah,
There's a lot of horror genre films out at the moment. We've got Annabelle, Stephen King's It, starting soon.
Yep.
And only not so long ago, several months ago, and I hate to draw parallels, but we had a phenomenal film called Get Out, which did really well all around the world. And I would argue to say that this film has a lot of qualities that could be, an audience would be interested in seeing. It's different. It is a different film. It challenges the way you look at this genre. Sundance.
yeah.
It officially screened at Sundance.
It
So
did.
for you as a new Australian director, how exciting is that?
There's my life before Sundance and my life after Sundance, and they're two different things.
And does it have the significant imprint of a career? Is it a making festival where you now are talking to people that you may not have talked before?
Oh, 100%. So I mean, when I made the film, I had a 9-to-5 job outside the industry. I took leave to make the film. I still had that job before I went to Sundance. At Sundance, we sold the film to IFC Midnight in the US, and it's been released over there a few weeks ago. But I also signed with CAA and Brillstein over there, so found representation, and really to take advantage of the opportunities that the film and the festival had afforded me. I came back, I quit my job. So, essentially, now I can focus on filmmaking. So it really is the kind of festival that, if you're there with the right film, I guess, can make your career happen.
How long did you live with the script? How long have you been living with this concept, this film?
Look, from the very kernel of the idea to me stepping out onto set was probably 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a long time to live with those characters.
Yeah. But it's worth not having to do your 9-to-5 job afterwards.
That's right.
For our audience out there, look, I did see the film. We screened it at Monsterfest several months ago, and there was a Q&A, as I mentioned earlier. The audience, when they came out from that Q&A, and I remember we were trying to do a bit of a vox pops, and people didn't want to talk about the film. They were. It's kind of like you gripped. People walked into the auditorium, you gripped them, and then you let them go, and it took some time for them to digest what they thought about not what they thought about it, but the impact you had, because it is violent. And without giving too much about the film, that scene with the toddler walking, I'll just say that.
That shot's in the trailer, so people.
Yeah, but it's pretty. It's just not something you think you're going to see, and it takes you to places as an audience member that I don't think we go to enough. So I just want to say to our audience, so look, it really is an extraordinary film. It releases in a couple of days on the 24th. It's playing at event cinemas nationally, and I certainly suggest you get out and support this Australian filmmaker, and a great story, and a wonderful film that's doing well and reviewed very well overseas in America. We look forward to its success, and thank you so much for coming in and having a few moments in our campsite in the cinema.
That's right, my flashbacks.
Thank you so much, Damien.
Thank you.